Most men don't understand how women actually communicate interest because they're waiting for something obvious, something direct, something like, I want you. But women almost never move like that. Their language is indirect, it's subtle, it's filled with small cues that most guys either overlook or misinterpret. And that's why so many men miss the opportunity altogether. A woman who's genuinely interested isn't going to announce her intentions because the psychology of attraction doesn't work that way. She wants to feel like you can read her without her having to spell it out. She wants you to be tuned in, confident enough to catch the signal, and decisive enough to act when the moment is there. Now, think about this. When a woman is curious about you, when she's feeling that spark, she doesn't risk rejection by being blunt. Instead, she throws out questions that seem casual on the surface, but if you're paying attention, they carry weight. That's what makes this so important to understand, because if you keep taking everything literally, you'll keep missing the deeper meaning. And that's exactly where most guys fail. They think she's just asking about their plans or just being friendly, but in reality, she's signaling desire in a way that feels safe to her. Psychology shows us that women are much more socially intelligent than men when it comes to subtle communication. They know how to frame a question so it feels light, but it plants the seed of possibility. When she asks where you're going, what you're doing, or if you're busy later, that's not small talk. That's her measuring how available you are, how open your schedule might be, and whether there's room for her in it. She's testing without exposing herself. And this is why most guys think women are confusing, because they expect logic and directness. But attraction isn't logical. Attraction is emotional. So if you're sitting across from her and she casually asks, what are you doing later? Or are you busy tonight? You need to recognize what's happening in that moment. She's not really interested in the list of your errands or what you had planned with your buddies. She's trying to see if you'll catch the hint that she wants more time with you. The difference between a man who wins in these moments and a man who loses is the ability to decode that subtext. Do you hear it as just a question, or do you hear it as an invitation? The mistake is when men over-explain, over-talk, or get nervous and fill the silence with excuses. That kills the energy. What you need is presence, clarity, and confidence. A simple, calm response that keeps the door open. Because in her mind, she's already picturing what could happen. And your job is to not ruin it by second guessing yourself. Women respect men who move with certainty, men who don't need everything spelled out in neon signs. If she's interested, she will signal it, but it's up to you to see it. This is why understanding indirect communication is so crucial. Attraction is happening underneath the surface. When you start to pay attention to these small cues, you'll realize women have been signaling you far more often than you thought. It's not that they weren't interested, it's that you weren't listening to the language they use. And once you finally understand that, you'll never look at those questions the same way again. And when she asks about your time, don't ignore it. Don't brush it off as just polite conversation. That's the first sign that she's already thinking ahead, that she's already imagining a scenario where she gets closer to you. Recognize it. Respond with confidence and let things move forward naturally, because the truth is, if she wants you, she'll always let you know. You just have to be the man who notices. When a woman feels that spark with you, the very first thing she's going to probe is your time. She wants to know where she fits in, how available you are, and whether the window is open for something to happen between you. And it's never framed as a heavy question. It comes out light, casual, almost like background noise. She'll ask, so what are you up to later? Or do you have plans after this? On the surface, it sounds innocent, like she's just making conversation, but underneath it carries a lot more weight. That question is her way of signaling that she wants to create an opportunity, and she's checking if you're paying attention. The psychology behind it is simple. People only ask about what they're interested in. If she's asking about your time, it's because she wants to know if she can get some of it. She's not curious about your grocery run or what TV show you're going to binge. She's trying to find out if you're free enough for her to step into that space. That's the difference between surface level chatter and attraction based questions. And if you miss this, if you just brush it off and talk about your boring schedule, you're throwing away a chance that she already handed you. Think about it. Women don't ask men they're not interested in what their plans are because they don't care. They don't need to know if a guy they're not attracted to has free time. So the moment she asks, it's already a green light. She's invested enough to find out where she could fit into your night, your week, your rhythm. That's not random. That's intentional. And the men who can read that intention are the ones who never struggle in these situations. Now, here's where most guys blow it. Instead of recognizing the subtext, they overcomplicate. They respond with, yeah, I'm busy, I've got this, I've got that, or they go into a long story about errands, work, or obligations. That kills the energy because what she wanted wasn't your list of tasks. What she wanted was to see if you'd pick up on her interest. By flooding her with explanations, you missed the chance to set the frame and lead. Attraction is about simplicity and clarity. A confident man doesn't need to justify his whole schedule. He just gives her an opening. When she asks about your time, she's testing more than just availability. She's also checking your energy. Are you relaxed about it, or do you come across desperate? Do you seem like a man in control of his life, or like someone whose time is up for grabs to anyone who asks? Women are hyper aware of how you position yourself. If you sound too eager, she pulls back. If you sound too cold, she questions your interest. But if you balance it, if you answer with calm certainty, you give her the reassurance she's looking for. And that's the real key. This isn't just about logistics. It's about psychology. The moment she brings up your time, she's signaling her desire to spend it with you. She might not say it outright, but she's already made the decision in her head. All she's doing now is checking if you're tuned in enough to catch it. Your role is to recognize that signal and keep the door open. When she asks what you're doing later, don't miss the point. That's not small talk. That's her showing you interest in the most natural way she knows how. If you can hear the meaning behind the words, you'll know exactly where she wants the night to go. Once she knows your time is available, the next thing she naturally becomes curious about is your space. This is the second sign that her interest is moving toward intimacy. She won't come out and say, "Can I come over?" or "I want to be alone with you." Instead, she'll ask questions that orbit around your environment, your living situation, or the atmosphere you move in. She might ask if you live alone, if you have roommates, or what your place is like. These questions are never just casual curiosity. They're her way of mapping out the possibility of being close to you without obstacles. The psychology is clear here. Space equals opportunity. A woman who is genuinely attracted to you and wants things to escalate needs to know if there's a setting where that can even happen. Think about it. If she knows you share an apartment with 3 people who never leave the couch, that immediately complicates the picture. But if she hears that you have your own space, or at least the ability to create privacy, it lowers the barriers in her mind. That's why these questions matter so much. They're not surface level. They're indicators of intent. Many men, however, miss this completely. They treat it like random conversation and they answer in a flat, forgettable way. She asks, "Do you live around here?" And he just replies with the name of his neighborhood, like it's an Uber driver asking for directions. But when you understand attraction, you realize she's not just asking for geography. She's planting a seed. She's picturing herself in that environment, imagining what it would feel like to step into your world. Every question about your space is a door opening, and you either walk through it with awareness or let it slam shut without realizing what you lost. Notice how these questions usually come after she's already shown interest in your time. It's a sequence. First, she asks if you're free. Then she wonders about where things could unfold. That's not coincidence, it's progression. She's moving from curiosity to planning, from thought to action. And you have to understand that she's doing this in a way that feels safe and natural to her. She doesn't risk rejection by being explicit. Instead, she uses questions that sound innocent enough, but if you know what's happening, they're anything but. Your response in these moments sets the tone. If you answer nervously or you seem ashamed of your space, it kills the vibe. But if you own it, if you speak with confidence about where you live, about the kind of environment you've created, it builds her desire. Women don't just respond to the man, they respond to the frame he lives in. If your space reflects security, confidence, and comfort, then she feels safe stepping into it. If your energy when talking about your space is relaxed and assured, it confirms to her that the intimacy she's already picturing is possible. This is why awareness is so powerful. Once you know that her questions about your space aren't random, you'll never hear them the same way again. You'll understand that when she asks, do you live alone or what's your place like, she's really saying, I'm open to more. And I want to know if you are too. That's the psychology behind it. Attraction always finds a way to reveal itself, and a woman who wants you will show it through curiosity about your time and your space. So when she starts asking about where you live, don't mistake it for small talk. That's her looking for the possibility of privacy, of connection, of something real happening without interruption. And if you can recognize that for what it is, you'll know exactly where you stand with her. When you start to peel back the layers, you realize that the questions she asks aren't random at all. They're not just curiosity, and they're not just filler for conversation. They come from a deeper place, a subconscious drive that psychology explains very clearly. Human beings, whether they realize it or not, send signals before they take action. These are called pre-close signals, indicators that the decision in her mind has already been made, even if she hasn't spoken it out loud yet. And when it comes to intimacy, women use these signals in the form of questions about your time and your space. This is where most men misunderstand the dynamic. They believe attraction is built entirely through words, persuasion, or chasing. They think they need to convince a woman or talk her into liking them. But if you really pay attention, you see that women reveal their intent long before anything happens physically. The mind always makes the decision before the body follows. When she asks what you're doing later, or when she asks about your living situation, those are the breadcrumbs leading to the bigger picture. It's her subconscious communicating desire in a way that feels safe, natural, and socially acceptable. Psychology teaches us that behavior is often more honest than words. People can say one thing, but their actions, their curiosity, their micro questions, they tell the truth. That's why it's critical to look beyond the surface. If she's not interested, she won't care about your time. She won't care about your space. She'll keep the conversation shallow and detached. But the moment she starts probing into your availability in your environment, the psychology behind it is simple. She's already imagining herself with you. You have to understand how powerful this is. Attraction doesn't operate in a logical step-by-step way. It happens emotionally, and then it looks for justification. Her questions are that justification. They're her way of aligning her emotions with her actions. By asking about your plans, she gives herself a reason to spend more time with you. By asking about your place, she gives herself a reason to picture being there. She's not trying to trap you into conversation. She's creating a path for intimacy that feels organic. And here's where most guys mess up. They either miss the signal completely or they overanalyze it. They treat her curiosity as small talk, or they freeze up and start questioning themselves. Does she really mean that? Am I imagining it? That hesitation kills momentum. Attraction doesn't wait around for you to build up courage. It thrives in decisiveness. If you recognize the psychology at play, you'll know those questions are more than words. They're actions in disguise. Your responsibility is not to force anything, but to simply align with the direction she's already leaning. If she's signaling interest by asking about your time and your space, all you have to do is hold your frame and let things unfold. Confidence isn't about chasing or pressuring. It's about being present enough to notice what's happening and strong enough to act when the moment presents itself. When you grasp this, everything changes. You stop wasting energy on women who aren't interested, because you'll see they never ask these questions. You stop second guessing the ones who are, because you'll understand that her curiosity about your availability and your environment is her way of saying she wants more. It's not random. It's not meaningless. It's psychology at work. And it's always more honest than words. So the next time a woman asks about your time and your space, realize that her mind has already made the choice. She's just waiting to see if you're sharp enough, confident enough to recognize it. Your role as a man in these moments is not to sit back and wonder what she means or to bury yourself in overthinking, but to recognize the signals and move with certainty. Women respect men who can read the situation without needing it spelled out word for word. If she's asking about your time, if she's asking about your space, the ball is already in your court. The only question left is whether you'll step into that role or let the moment slip through your fingers. Most men go wrong because they lack awareness and confidence. They wait for a green light that's so obvious it never comes. They tell themselves she needs to be more direct, but the truth is she already was. Her interest isn't going to look like a neon sign flashing above her head. It's going to come through subtle questions, hints, and small tests. If you can't recognize those, you'll either talk yourself out of it or you'll waste time chasing validation instead of leading. That's the mistake of the majority. They don't fail because women aren't interested. They fail because they don't see the signs until it's too late. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean forcing or pressuring. It means you're calm, you're steady, and you can act decisively without hesitation. When she gives you the signals, you don't get nervous, you don't second guess, you lean into it naturally. You don't need to over talk or prove anything. You simply respond in a way that makes it clear you understand what's happening. That calm, assured presence is what makes her feel secure enough to follow through on what she's already thinking. Your job is also to maintain the frame. That means you don't let her questions spin you into insecurity. If she asks about your time, don't dump your whole calendar on her. If she asks about your space, don't turn it into an awkward monologue about your rent or your living situation. Keep it simple, confident, and inviting. The less clutter in your response, the stronger the signal you send back. It's not about being perfect. It's about being direct without being desperate. Understand that women test without even realizing it. When she asks those subtle questions, she's not just curious, she's watching how you handle it. Do you fumble and over-explain, or do you answer with certainty and composure? That reaction tells her everything she needs to know about you. If you handle it like a man who respects himself and knows his worth, she feels drawn in. If you handle it like someone who needs her validation, she pulls away. Attraction is fragile in that way. One weak response can make her rethink everything. This is why your role is so important. You're not just another guy responding to random questions. You're the man she's already chosen. If you can carry yourself correctly, she's looking to you to lead, not with control or pressure, but with clarity. Women are attracted to men who know where they stand and don't hesitate when the opportunity is there. The stronger your frame, the easier it is for her to let her guard down and allow things to move forward. At the end of the day, it's simple. When she asks about your time and your space, she's already shown her interest. Your role is not to overcomplicate it. Your role is to recognize it, to keep your composure, and to act like the man who deserves that interest. If you can do that, you'll never be confused about where you stand with her. The bigger message here is that when attraction is real, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. You don't need tricks, long speeches, or endless effort to try and sway her. Women who want you will show it in ways that are consistent, and those ways often come down to the simplest behaviors, like asking about your time and your space. Too many men spend their lives chasing, begging, or trying to prove their value when the truth is the right woman doesn't need all that. If she's interested, her actions will reveal it without her having to say the words directly. Think about how many guys end up exhausting themselves because they believe they need to constantly persuade a woman. They text endlessly. They plan elaborate dates. They go out of their way to be overly available, hoping that all that effort will somehow earn them attraction. But attraction isn't earned like a paycheck. It's sparked, it's felt, it's revealed in the way she interacts with you. And if she truly wants you, she will ask the questions that show she's carving out space for you in her mind. She'll test your availability, and she'll test the environment around you, because in her head, she's already imagining being closer. That doesn't come from your convincing. It comes from her desire. The psychology of this is important to grasp. Real attraction lowers resistance instead of creating more of it. If every interaction feels like a struggle, if you feel like you're pushing a rock uphill just to keep her interested, that's not genuine desire. That's you trying to manufacture something that isn't there. A woman who wants to be with you makes it easier, not harder. She signals, she gives you openings, she positions herself so that you can step in. That's why it's critical to stop chasing and start observing. The moment you learn to see those subtle signs, you free yourself from wasting energy on the wrong people. Now, some men hear this and still fall into doubt. They think, well, maybe she's just being polite, or maybe she didn't mean anything by it. That constant second guessing is what kills opportunity. You have to trust what you see and what you feel. Women are not in the habit of asking about your personal time and your living situation unless they have a reason. They don't hand out those questions casually to every man they meet. When she's doing it with you, it's intentional. The only thing left is whether you trust yourself enough to respond. What makes this powerful is that it simplifies everything. You don't need to overcomplicate attraction. You don't need to buy into the idea that women are impossible to understand. You just need to know the basic psychology. Desire reveals itself through behavior. If she's curious about your schedule and your space, that's not a coincidence. That's her signaling. And once you grasp that, you'll never again confuse indifference with interest. The bigger message is freedom. When you realize you don't need to convince anyone, you stop chasing people who don't care, and you start recognizing the ones who do, you move differently. You carry yourself with more certainty. You understand that attraction is either there or it isn't. And when it is, she will always make it known through her actions. That's the truth. Most men never learn, and that's why they keep struggling. But the ones who do learn it, they finally understand that the signals were always there, waiting to be seen. When she asks about your time and your space, that's all you need to know. She's already made her choice. You just have to make yours.